I just had to be always positive and upbeat and whatever you need, and absolutely. And yeah, it's so funny. It's like, I didn't mind. It was what I did, and it was completely fine until it wasn't. All of a sudden, I just realized I couldn't anymore.
The moment that she started saying no and not being the happy Christine that you like, that you fell in love with, the woman that lifted your burden, that became a heavy lift for you.
I'm going to ask you now, Suki.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about Christina anymore.
Hey everyone, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It's Thursday, February 17th. Okay, heavy Sister Wives Day. I know you guys are here for the tea. And 2 clips came out from TLC, and part 3 is coming on Sunday. And I don't know what I'm gonna do once part 3 is over. It has been a pretty wild season. You guys, I had Kody Brown in my comments yesterday. Whoa! He, by the way, says he's 100% supporting his mother all day long. Kody is on Team Christine. So he is actually very engaged with the Sister Wives fans, which I think is really cool. Not all of the kids are as active or as interactive with bloggers, and Kody has done and has been kind of circulating. He's gotten in touch with some of the TikTokers, and it's always just great when any of these, you know, people that are on the show up and provide entertainment for you guys and give us a little bit of insight. And I was just glad that he was able to enjoy the jokes that we were making and all the support his mom was getting. And I think Kody is definitely appreciating all the love his mom is getting online. So let's talk about this new clip that came out about Kody and Christine, because Kody literally lost it, and he flips out at Suki, the person who is interviewing them. She is apparently a journalist. I am not familiar with her, but she is doing a pretty good job, I guess. So this part 3 is going to be going more into the divorce, okay? So Christine was, and for many years, the mom. She was the house mom. She took care of all the kids. She raised the 12 kids, and then they had Truly, so 12 kids, including Mariah. She took care of all of their needs at home, and while the other moms were working, and she was school and nurturing and everything, and she treated the kids like her own.
And so as far as my role in the family, it's just being the one that keeps the home running smoothly. I want to make sure the kids are taken care of. Janelle works insane hours sometimes, and so I just want to make sure that her kids are taken care of.
And when we first met her, she was very obviously saying that to us, that this is what she wanted and this is what she loved and this is the happiness. And you know, I think in the early stages they wanted so badly to convince the public that plural marriage was normal and that plural marriage wasn't what Warren Jeffs was. And maybe they aren't Warren Jeffs, but I think there's overriding issues that aren't just about what Warren Jeffs represents. There's other issues in the inequity and the power imbalance between men and women in these dynamics. So Christine back in the day was very happy in her role, and she's, you know, has spoken pretty honestly about, even in the last few years, I think a lot of you as fans have seen her evolution, even on her Instagram and on her social media, just how much she has changed, how much more independent she has become, how much more outspoken she's become, how much, just in general, how much she's just grown. She's working, she's providing for her kids, she's becoming more independent. She's even taking on different, you know, thought processes and listening to her daughters and supporting her kids. And she just has a lot that she is going through. She's deconstructing a faith that she doesn't believe in anymore. And part of that deconstruction is also like opening your eyes up to a whole world that you didn't know existed. So she's really like had this massive metamorphosis that I think so many people resonate with, and they like are cheering her on because so many knew for such a long time how unhappy she was And like I said, she's got a glow up these days. So she was asked what happened and like what changed in the relationship. And she said that it happened when she finally got so exhausted, always saying yes, always doing what everyone else wanted, not ever putting herself first, never pushing back, never questioning, never doing anything to rock the boat. Because in the world of polygamy, Warren Jeffs has a saying called keep sweet, but there's other sayings too, and it's just with a woman having to remain positive, happy, not submissive and obedient to her husband. A woman's role is to obey the priest and to be happy and to not argue. And the happier you are and the more you stuff down and push down those emotions and the more you say yes and you give him what he wants, you get some crumbs from him, but it doesn't allow women to actually have feelings. They're not allowed to be angry. They're not allowed to voice their concerns, because when you start saying no to the narcissists that are in these sects, they don't like the answers. When they don't have the control and the power and they're no longer don't have the obedient wife, they don't know what to do with it. They're not trained to deal with independent thinking wives. It's about control and power. That's all that matters in this group. Control, power, and front hugging on the bed and making a lot of kids. Or she says that everything changed. She references a conversation she had with her father.
My dad talked to me. It was actually my dad. My dad's the sweetest, most loving guy. And he's like, at what point are you going to start saying no? And he goes, you're always saying yes to everything. When are you going to start saying no?
Like, when are you going to say no? When are you going to finally stand up for yourself and like say, this is what I want. This is what I need. I think she lied to herself for a lot of years and said that it was enough to do what she was doing. And then I think she finally realized that she didn't have any idea who she was. And she said that when she had that conversation with her dad, it kind of like woke her up. And she realized she needed to stand up for herself.
So the next day you woke up and you said, you know what, I'm going to change this dynamic.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to start standing up for myself.
Yeah.
And the moment you started standing up for yourself, Cody didn't like that change in personality.
No. I think that
He
he heard, but he had no idea what to do because I had changed so much in the blink.
You see, everyone I've talked to doesn't really, from Christine's world, doesn't really like Cody. And I don't know what her parents think of Cody now, but the fact that even her father, who is a polygamist, is telling her to wake up is pretty amazing. I mean, considering how these men are, perhaps Rex is a much different breed. But in this case, that conversation with her dad opened her eyes and made her realize she needed to assert herself and ask for more. And that's when Cody didn't know how to handle it. Now, she didn't disparage him. She didn't say that he was a horrible husband. She just said that he didn't know what to do with the change because she changed so dramatically overnight and stopped being a doormat and started like advocating for herself and for her kids. And then he didn't know how to handle that. And so she said he withdrew, she withdrew. And I think we saw that, right? Then she asks her about therapy and says, what did you learn about in therapy? And she said the biggest thing that she learned in therapy is that Cody holds a lot of grudges that she didn't even realize were things that he was worried about or things that bothered him. So things that happened years ago, he was still angry at her about.
Stuff where I was like, oh my gosh, you hold grudges way longer than I do, way longer. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, stuff that shocked me completely.
So when Cody is asked sort of like what happens in the relationship, he talks about how everything was great until they got to Las Vegas. They would have good periods, some bad periods, some good periods, but it would always come around to good. And then he said, by the time they get to Vegas, he says that she tells him that she hates plural marriage.
And then we end up in Las Vegas after she's told me she hates plural marriage, while she's at the same time, telling the whole world how awesome it is.
So he says Christine's telling the whole world how awesome plural marriage is and telling him that she hates plural marriage. You can't put this on Christine because Cody, even this past year, has said that he doesn't know that he wants to be a polygamist. He has disengaged. He is disenchanted with polygamy. He and the whole family said they loved polygamy and plural marriage. But the truth is, all of them were miserable, and most of us could tell. Christine wasn't lying when she was on the 4th season by Vegas. She was miserable. She wasn't sitting on television saying, I love this. No, she was sitting on the bed with Mary, telling Mary about how much she's struggling with Cody and how she can't handle him anymore.
So you guys are still like struggling, and
Yeah.
anything getting better?
There's things about our relationship that we need to discuss and we need to fix.
Cody and I went through the same thing.
Cody has like a way to rewrite things in a way where he acts like he has no fault. So it's Christine's fault because she told the world that she loved polygamy when she didn't. So then she brings up the stuff with the therapy and says, well, Christine mentioned that you hold grudges.
She had mentioned to me grudges, that you could never let go of some grudges.
I don't carry grudges. No, if somebody says I hold a grudge, they're full of it. They don't know who I am. They don't know me.
And he's like, no, I don't hold grudges. Anyone that knows me knows that I don't hold grudges. And I'm all like thinking, aren't you still mad at Mary about the catfishing thing? Aren't you the guy that literally she was leaving my ass? Really, Cody? He was so mad at Mary for such a long time, and he still is like holding on to stuff around Truly and her illness from years ago. Like, he does hold grudges, but whatever. So she brings up the fact that he holds grudges and he says he doesn't have grudges. Then she brings up the fact about how Christine had brought up about how she changed and how he couldn't handle that. It wasn't an accusation. It was more like, these were Christine's feelings. What are your feelings? And instead of responding to Christine's feelings and validating it, he cuts off her and says, I'm going to ask you, but then doesn't ask her and says, I do not want to talk about Christine anymore.
She's told you things that I fundamentally disagree with.
Okay.
And all I'm doing now is defending myself.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you now, Suki.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about Christina anymore.
Narcissists like Cody do not like to be confronted or even have to acknowledge that they somehow contributed to someone else feeling badly. So instead of actually dealing with it, he's just going to cut off the conversation and say that he doesn't want to talk about Christine because he doesn't want to have to face the reality that he doesn't like it when a woman tells him no. Cody for years has portrayed on television that it's a democracy. He has told us for years that his wives are strong and independent and all have a say. This completely shatters that image that he has crafted of himself, of this loving, doting, supportive husband. He's not. He doesn't allow his wives to have a say. If they do say no, he craps all over them. Christine didn't want the one house, and he definitely was done with the marriage at that point. Mary had the audacity to look for happiness after he was treating her like crap for years, and it's all Mary's fault. It's never Cody's fault. And now presented with Cody, you couldn't handle that she says no. He doesn't want to admit that because that's completely, and these are my opinions, you guys, but this is completely against the image that he has put out into the public. So who's really lying? Is Christine lying? Because I remember season 4 in Las Vegas, she was not happy and she was not pretending that she loved plural marriage. She was very honest about where they were. Christine's probably been the most honest of all of the wives of where she's at. And that you're not allowed to have real feelings in polygamy. And when you're not allowed to have real feelings and your real feelings slip out of you and you don't obey, and then the abuser, like Cody, has to be told it's because you weren't told no, or because she told you no, it makes us as viewers realize he is just like the polygamists we thought, right? Demanding, they don't treat their wives well, they don't care about their wives' opinions and thoughts. Maybe his wives are not living in squalor like some of the Kingston wives, but he's abandoned them. He's doing nothing differently in that respect. He doesn't care about their kids unless he needs something. His entire persona is shattered with her leaving, and he knows that, and he doesn't want to face it. So instead of dealing with it, he's like, I'm done. That's gross. I'm excited to watch the rest of this because I want to see Christine's full conversation about this. And I just keep wondering, at what point Do you think the show's ratings are so good right now. Do you think at some point this family is just going to be like, we can't do this anymore? Or are they going to ride this wave as long as it can go and just stay on the air as long as TLC will film them to the detriment of the health of their family? Cody will just say it's all Christine's fault. But how does reality TV play into this? What kind of stress has that added to this? What has the fame done to the family? It's all just like a tangled web. And you guys are here for it. It's a sad, sad issue. It's a sad family falling apart. It's so awful to watch this. But there's these silver linings of watching and someone that's been pummeled to the ground for years through verbal, emotional, and psychological abuse stand up for herself, put on her little tiara, and walk proudly out the door and show her daughters that she can stand up for herself. That is what I'm here for. Is that what you're here for? Tell me in the comments below. Bye, guys.